Hi, welcome to Object-Oriented Comprehensive Guide in Python. So we have reached to section number 6 to discuss data structure. In particular, we're going to be looking at the perspective from object-oriented programming in regard to data structure. Number of the outline we'll be covering. First, we'll be looking at type of data structure called tuples and named tuples. Then we'll be looking at dictionaries, lists, sets, and queues. I think these are the most important popular type of data structure you will encounter not only in Python, but most of the programming languages in the way we structure and store the data. Let's move on and discuss the first outline, and that is tuples and named tuples. So basically, tuples are just objects that can store specific number of other objects in order. They are immutable, so we cannot actually add, remove, or replace object on the fly. Tuples are usually used to store data. Behavior cannot be stored in tuples. If we require behavior to manipulate a tuple, we have to pass a tuple into a function or method to do so. So tuples usually should generally store values that are somehow different from each other. Let me actually move to Visual Studio Code and show you what I mean. The simplest way to creating a standard and normal tuple looks like this. Let's assume that we have this variable called stock, and here are some of the variable stock name. Follow that with a comma. Then I could maybe put the price, the close of the price, and then maybe we can add the lowest price of the day, something like that. So now stock concerned to be a tuple. If I want to print actually stock, and also I can print the type of the stock. So you could see very clearly here is the parentheses, which implies or indicate that the values within or inside here happens to be a tuple. And we can see the type of this particular variable, it is of type tuple. This is one way of actually creating a tuple. Otherwise, I could actually have the exact same thing as I did here. However, I could just add the parentheses as I am creating tuple, the result still remaining the same. Now let me show you something much more practical. Let's import here a module called datetime, and then let's create a function, and basically it take a stock and a date. Now I'm going to define here along the line a few important variables. First, let's define something called symbol, and then current, high maybe. And I will add here to say this is the stock. You see here, I set from left to right. So what happened here, now stock, this argument that come in, it seems to be packed, contain these 4 values. And maybe let's just make a return sentence as follows. We're going to return a tuple. That's why I opened these 2 brackets. Inside the tuple, maybe I could make some even operation by taking the high value that's passed to me plus the low value, and then I can divide that by 2. So this is the first value that's going to be returned, and also I'm going to return the date. I'm going to use this function called stock info, and here it requires me to pass, as you can see, the date and the stock. Let me pass the stock first. So this is stock. I'm going to just pass this tuple, and the second is to pass the date. I run the function as it is here, as you expect. So you get this number, which is the high plus low divided by 2, and this is the date of the time that is passed. Now I could, of course, put it inside this X return value. I run one more time, you get the exact same result. However, I'm going to show you the unpacking. So I can literally take 2 values. The first value that will be the mid value, and the second is going to be the date. Here, if I print alone the mid value, and then in the second line, just to separate and show you, I can print the date and run this one more time, result as expected. So I managed to unpack the returned value from this tuple in these 2 variables. This is also a very, very common technique. You might see it in many different applications. We can use the same syntax that we use for other sequence tuples, like list and strings, for example, to access individual values. What I'm trying to say, take the exact same example we just created, this tuple called stock. So if I want to actually print the stock of 1, for example. So I run, is the result as expected. So this is a way of access to some of the variables in particular. We can even make a slice. So for example, I could move from 1 until the end. So if I print this one more time, you can see 2 of these values will be printed. Now, this is what actually the most important and basic idea to understand the use of tuples, how to create them, how to access some of their values. There's something called named tuples. They are actually tuples, but with a simpler change called with attitude. Let me show you a very good example. So first of all, I have to go and import a module called the collections. Now from this collection, I'm going to import in particular this class called named tuple. Now I could go back to my example of stock here, enclose that into a named tuple. So here I'm going to have 2 important arguments. So the first argument, I will be calling on the name of that attitude. Let's call it a stock attitude. And the second argument will contain the field within these 2 commas. We have the symbol, and I'm going to make a space with the current, and then maybe the high and the low value. So we have these 4 variables, and you can see how did I write them. Now what happened if I would have to create now a normal variable, let's call it SK. And this SK is going to be equal to stock. So I'm going to pass here the exact 4 names, like the things I was doing before. Let's try and run that and see what the result would look like, exactly as expected. And I can also index within that. So if I just want to reach out to the simple and run one more time, I'm reaching out to the simple or to the current, etc., etc. There's an alternative way I can use that as an attitude. So if I go SK dot, so I have the current, the high, the index, the low, the symbol. So I can just print the high here, run that. You could see he's getting me the high price. If you attempt in any kind of a tuple to make an amendment after you make the assignment, I should be encountered with an error. And this error is telling me the attribute error. You can't set an attribute to as high because this is immutable. Next, we'll be talking about dictionary. I will see you then.